Hi, everyone. We have a very special guest here today with us, Julie Reisler. Julie is a master life designer coach. She is the best-selling author of Get a PhD in You book series, which, by the way, is absolutely amazing and transformational. You should definitely check it out. And she's the podcast host of the USU podcast. She's a multi-time TEDx speaker and the founder of the Life Designer Coaching Academy and School of Sacredology. And Julie's been featured in Forbes, the Chopra Center, New York Times, along with a whole lot of other places. So welcome, Julie. We are so excited to have you here.
Oh my gosh, I am so excited. I cannot wait. I love this topic. This is going to be incredible. And thank you both for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I mean, this topic is like, it's kind of have been a speculation for me as well. And so, so let's just, I would like to ask you, like, tell us your story. How did you get into the topic of intuition? Like, was there a time when you weren't following your intuition? And what was the impact?
It's a great question. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, good. There's a lot to this. I'm going to try to keep it concise because I could do like a day on this. I think at least over here in the West, many of us, most of us are not taught to really tune in and to listen to what I believe it's our birthright. This, our intuition or inner wisdom to me is one of the biggest gifts we all have. And it's that ability to have that sense of what's true for you, what's true for me, that has nothing to do with what the outside world says. It's also, there's more depth to it. We all have a different, I think, way of connecting. For some of us, we feel or sense or see or hear or, get an image or vision. And for me, my belief is that our intuition it's always a little like compass that's for our highest good. And for me, I will share just really briefly. I think it's important to say because there was a time early on in my life, I have always been very strong intuition and did not know what to do with it. I was raised very loving family, and my father was he was a veteran and had undiagnosed PTSD, bipolar, depression. Very loving to me as a father, yet struggled massively in different ways through his business, with money, with just feeling not good enough. And I remember I used to be able to almost like read his thoughts. Like I knew this at age 4 and I didn't know how I knew this. And so I just started to pick up on him and, my parents, the way they interacted, and many, many more examples of this. But, it was both, I think, for many of us being an empath, which is being really in tune to energy and feelings. I'm definitely that. Highly sensitive, definitely that, which is often, very sensitive to sensory things like lighting. I'm still like that, smell. And I remember I could just sense a lot with my dad and nothing was being said on the surface, but I remember I had a time I was upset with him and he was like my best friend, but I didn't want to say anything because I was scared it would really hurt him. And I just had this premonition, like I really had this horrible feeling he was not going to be here. He would, try to take his life. And it's interesting because later on I found out that right about that time, he was suffering with depression and was considering that to some degree, ended up getting help and is doing a lot better. But this is just a little taste of it. It's come through my life in many stories, in many ways. For me, I didn't know what to do with that. And so I blocked it. For me, I used food. Others use alcohol or, now social media or TV or other things to not be in the present moment with it. My earlier marriage, I'm remarried. The person I married, very good person, really great dad, not the best fit for me. And I knew this earlier on and I did not want to listen. And I didn't want to listen to it. And so I think sometimes, intuition, if you don't know what to do with it, it can feel overwhelming. We could block it. I think there's a whole, a whole realm of learning to really honor it and learn how to trust it. And that's why I believe we need friends and sisters and support, because sometimes what you tune into can be a big shift in your life. I've had this over and over and over again with my health, with my marriage, leaving my job. I mean, too many stories. I actually track it today, but I really believe this is like our innate magical superpower. That's really like part of how we're wired and what we're born with. Starting to listen to it, deciding I'm going to literally run my business and life by it my whole life has changed completely for the better. And when I have not listened, that's when I've gotten not into trouble, but definitely have had some issues where I'm like, yep, I knew that and I did not listen. So it's there for our highest good. It's a long-winded answer.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. And it's amazing that you could see that there's a time that you were really in tune with the intuition, and then you blocked it, and then you went back to being in tune. But that was a conscious decision.
Yeah, I think, for everyone and for you, anyone listening, I think sometimes when we're younger, often when we're little, there's not as many stories that have affected our way of being. And I didn't question it, but I didn't feel comfortable with it. And I remember we would be in stores and I like couldn't be there because the energy didn't feel right. I mean, it was just like, sounded weird, but it wasn't until later I started to feel like, oh, I don't want to have this. And that was the whole blocking it, until I realized, oh, this is actually a gift. And we all have it in different ways. We all have intuition in different ways. I think for me at this point, it's really a beautiful gift where I'm able to kind of sense and feel and see and hear like all of it. And it comes in many different forms at this point, maybe being open, practicing. I think like any muscle, and when we're open, we have a greater chance of connecting to that innate wisdom.
Mm, yeah. So, we went on your website and we actually took the assessment, the intuitive.
Oh, what are you? Oh my gosh, what are you?
I'm a volume.
Volume. Cool. How about you, Deep? What are you?
It said I'm a visionary.
Did you both relate to what it said you were? I'm
Yes.
curious.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Oh my
did.
God. It is so spot on. Because when I was answering the questions, I thought you'd have to like pick the top one or the last one, like whichever one you would be picking. But then in the end, I got that. And then when I read about it, the volume, I was like, oh my God, yeah, there's so many times I would hear things in my head. And that's the way that I receive intuition and that guidance. And so many times I'll be sitting eating my food, or I'll be in the shower, and there's just these like words that get dropped into my head, which I know they're not mine. So it's incredible, and it was so spot on. I was like, wow, this is incredible.
I love that. That makes me
So
so excited. Yeah, so excited.
So tell us about the intuitive languages so that people can learn a little bit about it.
So thank you. Yeah. And Deep, you related to being visionary?
Yes, actually, I am more like, I get answers, but it's in a form of like, outside rather than, like Simmer gets that, like, that she hears words or however. But for me, it's more like it's like being in the nature. I would get answer from the nature or from a book, or something else would just come in front of me. So yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I think so it's funny, this whole, oh my gosh, first of all, where to begin? The whole intuition languages and assessment was an intuitive thing that came to me. It was about 2 years ago. I'm like lost track of time with this pandemic. I'm like, I don't know, it was not this December, last December or November, about 2.5 years ago, something like that. I just had this kind of, for me, it happens. I hear it, I see it, all of it. And I think it was I woke up and I heard, you need to like come out of this like closet thing about intuition and help people, because it's a gift that we all have. and we all have an inner knowing, we just have it in different ways. And so I remember I heard that and I was like, okay. And then I was asked to speak at a pretty big conference about intuition. And I was like, whoa, well, that was fast. Okay. And I just started hearing people's stories, and started tracking mine. I went back, and I do recommend this, like, do an inventory. If you're like, yeah, I'm not sure I have intuition. Yeah, do a little inventory. When did you feel, you had an inner gut feeling or an inner knowing or sense, and you listened to it? And when you didn't listen to it, just look and see. You can't miss it. There's not one person I have ever connected with that didn't have some time in their life they had some sort of knowing that was not logical. And I actually had this this woman who had just volunteered out of the blue. I'd kind of gotten to know her through this community I was in, and she was like, Julie, I'd love to just help you. I'm like, who are you? Are you an angel? And we worked on it. I was like, I just feel like I need to help people understand a little more beyond just the whole. I think many don't relate to being clairvoyant or clairsentient. That's often thought of for those, like, I know for me, clairaudient and clairvoyant, I'm very strong in those two. So, but that can sometimes feel, not everyone relates to that, or it might not be as strong as those definitions. So I was like, how do I like get this out there and teach it? Because I know this is something we all have. And all I can tell you is I just started taking notes and asking the universe, hey, like literally, like I get it. Like I'm hearing it, getting it, signs, help me. And it just sort of poured out. I was like, okay. I was like, I like the V's, like I loved using the same letter. And those words came out, and I'm like, that really resonates. And then sinking into what would that mean? What does that mean? And I do have all four. We all, probably many listening, have all four. Some may be more developed than others. It's kind of like different percentages. I really do at this point today get intuition comes to me through all four channels. So, sometimes it's like I get really interesting sensations in my body. So I started to look at all the four and how they occur for me. And I asked around, I started asking some people, and just decided, okay, we need a way to express, like for you, Summer, and I know what that's like. With the pandemic, I woke up that first Monday, the 15th of March, and I heard the first voice that I woke up and I heard inside me, your mission just started. Like whatever you thought you were doing, you got something big. Keep going. We need you. I really heard like your mission started. We need you. So I'm like, okay, I had no idea what that means, but okay. Felt like I was getting my orders. But at times I'll also get an image of something or image for somebody else. And so I tapped into those four different types to keep it simple. But the truth is we all have inner knowing. We all do. It's just a way I think what's important is the more you get to learn what your language is, the more you have more self-awareness. You can start to look for it. You can start to build that kind of faith and trust muscle. And I think courage is part of listening and trusting your intuition. So, and I can go through them quickly, or, if anyone wants to take the assessment, it does share it. But it just felt like this is something that I think in our society, at least on the West, has been really pushed down. And because it's not thought of as logical, it's just been like, nope, not important. And I've been very grateful because I've gotten to know some of the, the founder, the CEO of Heart Math Institute that does a lot with heart intelligence. And they talk about the science of intuition. There's science behind this. This is not made up. So I've just been excited to learn more on the science end. And hopefully the languages, it just gives people a way to speak about it that doesn't have you feel like I am just nuts over here, because you're not. To me, this is like that subtle language of the universe, of the divine universe, that is constantly speaking with us. And I don't know, my whole life changed listening to it. So I'm a big proponent of everyone tuning in.
And you'd say that it's a good idea. It's really good for your business and for other areas of your life as well, to be listening to the intuition.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Literally I have like pages of notes on, I actually have a huge the back of my vision board, I've just put all of what's evolved, what's expanded, what's happened from listening. So, you guys get it, having a podcast 3 years ago, I heard auditory volume, like, you need to start a podcast. It's time. And I'm like, oh no, like, who am I to do that? And it's a lot of time. I mean, there's a lot of energy with it. And I was like, no, I'm listening. And it's been a huge gift. It's for many reasons. I've had healers and people on there that have helped me with my own health. And I didn't even realize that's what was happening. That's just, writing a book. I'm like, who the hell am I to write a book? Like, who am I to write a book? I don't know if I have much to say. Right. And then a year after starting my business, I heard again, you need to write a book. And that book really opened the door to the TED Talks, but to the more than that, it's like making more of an impact. And that's the whole point. I think when we really are listening from that place of that intention, that high intention of living according to your highest calling and plan and integrity and heart and impact, it's always for your highest good. I had a massive intuition about my health before I had this thyroid diagnosis 10 years ago. And I'm grateful because it's led me, the master's degree program I did happened to be at an integrative university where they were teaching about how to heal autoimmune conditions. Like, it's just, there's so many examples of where, when I've listened to it, I mean, 98% of my life and business is listening. I would say 2% is not, because I'm stubborn. But there was one decision. I won't go into it just because it's not important, but there was the second book I wrote and some of the ideas I had. And after that, there was one thing that I was really grappling with, and I ended up doing it. And it's not the end of the world, but it definitely, my intuition was like, no, you don't need to do that. And I did. And I was like, okay, all right, I get it. Like, got it. So the thing is learning to pause and to listen. And I know for me, as somebody who tends to not be the most patient lady in the world, like learning, I have a 24-hour rule. I don't make a decision without the 24-hour buffer. I need time to like feel what is going on in here. And on the other hand, for those, for everyone listening, like, we also have body wisdom. So and this is known also as muscle testing. You can do this. You can just start doing this, check in. How do you feel? The question I love the most is this true for me? Is this right for me? I do it with food because, food has been my thing, but food, anything, I'll just see, am I leaning forward or am I leaning back? And when I'm leaning forward, for me, what I've learned is that is a yes. If it's not a full forward, then it's a either pause or no. And just notice with food's a great one because we eat typically a couple times a day. I knew this about me when I took out a lot of meat and things like that, but I knew I was like, something's wrong with eggs. Something's going on. And then ended up testing it, like doing all that testing, and it was eggs. I knew a chicken and it was chicken. Like, I knew this. So the more we practice it, the more we get to be this expert in ourselves. It's really empowering.
So, like, what can women do if they're struggling, not like trusting their intuition, or like, second guessing their guidance? Like you were saying that you listen if you're leaning forward, or like, so what are like some of the ways? So that I would say is one way of getting started. Yeah. So what are like some other ways that, that people can really tune in, especially when it comes to like listening to your intuition or following that guidance?
It's a great question. It's an important one. Well, if you're looking for validation on the outside world, there's not so much yet. I think it's starting to change. So this is an inner job. However, like anything, I recommend don't do it alone. Find people here in other communities, find people that are like-minded, that are connected and committed to, really living from that place of inner wisdom. Find accountability, or I call them sacred buddies, sacred intuitive buddies. Like, find somebody or a partner who you can check in with. In my USU community, we share signs and evidence of intuition, of synchronicities. Like, you know, I interviewed one of the leading experts on synchronicity. There is literally science behind it. A lot of it connected to quantum physics, which is super cool. And I am definitely not an expert in it, but I've studied it enough to like get the like first grade level. Something I think that's a real tool that you can do, a strategy is, I had mentioned it kind of before, but two things. One, do a little research, do a little like inventory, look and see what are some of the times you remember you had this inner knowing and you don't know why, you don't know where it came from. What was it? And then I would go a step further and say, like, did you follow it? Did you not? What happened? So you start to see, kind of your own, it's like your own, the patterning and your own evidence. And then I would start an evidence journal going forward. I can show you guys mine. This is one of mine, but I have this little book I keep at my desk, and I track things all the time because I just find it fascinating. It's also a really fun way to go through life. So, you're thinking of, this has been happening a lot. I'll be thinking about someone and she calls. You're turning a certain number in your age, and then you see that number everywhere on the road. You're asking for a sign, and, we're getting maybe a little into the spiritual side, but I believe as much as we have human physical forms here, we also have energy that is guiding us, that you call it whatever you want, spirits, angels, higher intelligence that is not in the physical. And we have free will. So ask your higher self, whatever you call that, for signs, for evidence, and then track it, take photos of it. I do this all the time. I have a little, in my notes in my phone, I have evidence. I have photos. It's so cool. And then you have your own little like notebook that you can go through and be like, oh yeah, because we forget. To me, these are like the magical mysteries of the universe. And it reminds me of, I think it was Einstein said, everything is either a miracle or nothing is. I actually think synchronicity is to be expected. I think that's part of the gift that we get as being human. So tracking it's great, especially if you get an intuitive feeling or sense, or, hear something or see something, write it. And then if you do take action, like write that. I have these all over in front of me. I'm looking because I'm in my office and I'm like, there's my like miracles manifested thing. And then the back, I don't track all of it, but I do as many as I can because it builds your muscle of faith and surrender and trust, which makes a big difference, because I think the more we trust ourselves, first of all, for women, there's nothing more important, I think, is for women to be empowered and trust themselves. Trust your body, trust your inner wisdom, trust your knowing. It will not lead you astray. And I feel like that can just avoid a lot of tough stuff, if we're listening in. So especially men too, I love men too, but especially for women, I think there's a lot of focus, like be nice, just do avoid what you feel to take care of everyone else. No, don't do that. Don't do that. I could have gotten a master's degree in that. Don't do that. That's taking you outside. That's abandoning yourself. And I actually believe that abandoning yourself can lead to autoimmune conditions. It can lead to self-attacking yourself. I believe my autoimmune condition is totally related to abandoning myself and not listening to my intuition. So not to scare people, but I do believe we're all, we're mind, body is connected. We know that.
Mm. It all comes down to really honoring yourself. And
yeah,
it's like, I actually really sometimes I do deal with the second guessing part, especially when it comes to sharing with someone else that I had this intuition about something. Like when the pandemic happened in March 2020, we basically had to buy our flights to come to India overnight. Like we just saw that the government, the visa policies had changed, and we were like, oh my God, we need to leave right now. And that day I remember going to the gym, and as we were coming back from the gym, I had this really strong, like I heard the words that, because we had thought that, the visa policies have changed for a month. So we will go out and then we can just come back. And I heard this clear that it's not happening. And I was like, huh. So, but I didn't really share it with Deep and Nathan. In the end, we had to ship a lot of stuff out of Indonesia just because we've been out for so long. And yeah, so I think what you said is really amazing, that just trust yourself. Doesn't matter what other people think or whether they validate that or not, but trusting yourself is so important.
Absolutely. Can I share a really, really quick story about this? Because I think, and it sounds like that's what happened with you. I was talking to somebody who's done a lot with this, with heart intelligence and heart math. And one of the techniques is very simple. You put your hand on your heart, kind of just take a few deep breaths. You can keep your eyes open and you just ask your heart, like, what do you feel here? What's for my highest good? It's amazing. I mean, for some of us, if you're not used to it, you might hear your mind chatter, but usually it's very succinct and very short and very direct. And so you probably, without doing that, got that same response, like if you had asked here. And it's been really powerful. It's helped me a lot, to connect here. And that's one of the things I love with the work with heart math, is they go into heart brain coherence. The intuition, actually, the way they explain it is it goes in through your heart first, then to your brain, your gut, and other parts. So there's like real intelligence here. We actually have all these sensory neurites. I think it's like 40,000 in your heart that is similar to what the neurons are in your brain. I mean, it's really unbelievable. But wherever you feel it or sense it or hear it or see it, like, we do have that information. And so, asking or listening. I mean, look, there's getting the information, and then the next step is listening to it. The one thing I'd say is don't judge yourself no matter what, even if you don't listen to it, even if it ends up being something you wish didn't happen. We learn by doing. So I've learned, trust me, learn by not listening. And I think the more you start to listen, the more you build that kind of that belief in it. And it takes courage sometimes. Sometimes what is being said to you is, I know I've had moments like being told, I woke up in the middle of the night. My son was 6 months old, and I heard very loud and clear, "You're not okay in this relationship." That was really intense. And it took a lot of support to really decide I'm going to listen to that, because that was all my intuition. There was nothing on the surface, no reason. So it sometimes it's not always easy, it's not always easy, but I have found it's worth it. And it is always for our highest good. My experience.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what about, are there any practices or rituals or meditation that someone can do to enhance their intuition?
Well, I think there's a lot. First of all, I think any form of meditation, any form that works for you, you can't go wrong. You just, that would start there. There are I actually have a few, Insight Timer is a really lovely app. There's Calm. You could Google on YouTube, just connecting to your intuition. But there was one I did recently on the light of, like, you're imagining you're in a pyramid and you have light coming through you. And it's just, any way that you can get into stillness and quiet our thoughts are never going to stop. So that's not what's going to happen, but quiet our mind and then really connect inward. The more we do that, the more that we are training ourselves, to tamper the stress response, but also to be more attuned and in tune with, I think of it as infinite intelligence, and that's within each of us. So any kind of meditation, any kind, daily, I think, is the first thing. The second would be a practice I've been doing for a long time, which is just intuitive journaling. Like, get a journal and ask yourself, maybe there's something you're curious about, wondering about, worried about. Just ask the question at the top. Some people do this with their non-dominant hand. I found that to be really frustrating because I cannot write very well with my other hand. So what I'll do is take a few deep breaths, maybe put a hand on my heart, maybe not, and just ask the question. This is kind of cool. I'll share this. I don't think I've ever shared this before. The image I got a couple of years ago is really neat because I do get visuals. When I was doing this, I saw, it's funny, this like violet shimmering curtain go around my head, my brain. And what I got was almost like, you know, the Wizard of Oz, how there's like the curtain. It was like this beautiful magical curtain. It was around my brain. And I heard, we're just going to let her like rest. So I think what that image was let what's going on in my mind rest. And we're going to tune into intuition, because I don't feel that intuition is really about reason and logic. I don't think it lives there. And it was so cool. So sometimes I'll imagine this curtain, if that works for you, like around my brain, around my mind, around my head. And then I can kind of like, it's almost like she's taking a nap. She's good. And then I'll just write whatever comes up. Now, the trick is, do not edit. You can do this typing too. I've done this typing. It's super cool. Like, often things come out that I'm like, what is that? Where is that from? That doesn't feel completely like me, but it is. So practicing that intuitive journaling is a great thing, great practice. But I would say those two, and then the evidence, keeping that tracking of what you're seeing, the signs, the synchronicities, your intuition. And then ask, when you have an intuition about something, notice, did you feel it in your belly, in your chest? Did you get chills? Did you see in your mind's eye? Did you hear it auditory? Like, how did it come to you? Notice it. Add that. How is that coming to you? Because you'll start to really get, oh, wow, that must be, you'll start to get your language. You'll get your own language.
That's amazing. So any last words of advice that you would like to give?
Well, I think, Simmer, you like really reflected it beautifully. I think this is about a couple things: trusting yourself, building that, maybe I'll call it TQ, trusting quotient, like start to trust yourself really. This innate power and connection to our inner wisdom is incredibly, it's life-changing, it's transformative, it's beautiful, it's magical, whatever word works for you. I just encourage you to try it and find others that can support you. And when you start to go into your head that says things like, oh, that's woo-woo, oh, that's not true, blah, check in with your body before you dismiss it. Learn to check into your body. This is important for health and well-being, for decisions, everything. All I can say is I've done a good portion of my life not listening, and I've done a good portion of my life listening. And there is absolutely no question, totally, completely different experience. My life continues to get not perfect. No one's is better and better though. And more things coming through that I didn't even imagine or picture. My health has gotten better. It's just all of it. I think it's all connected to trusting yourself. I think it also, it changes the way that the chemicals, our response, we go into that space of compassion, of heart energy for ourselves. So I really just encourage everyone and find people that can support you, so that, when you start going into this is not logical and start rationalizing and reasoning, that's not where intuition lives. And all I'd say is like, welcome to the amazing, aspect that's you. This is really, once you start tracking it and seeing it, you're just going to be blown away. It's really beautiful. And it's really, it's powerful. And this is for all of us to thrive, not just survive. I really think intuition, the undercurrent of it is all about thriving. And I am definitely all about thriving. I think we all are. So yeah, just trust yourself, as Simmer said.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much. So Julie, where can women learn from you? Where can they connect with you?
Thank you. This is so fun. So probably the easiest place to find me is probably my website, which is just my name, juliereisler.com. I also, Instagram, all the social media places, it's the same. It's just my name, at my name. I do have a community where we focus on intuition, and it's called Sacredology. It's a beautiful community. We meet once a month. I do intuitive messages. We learn how to tap into it. So I have that's on my website. And if you're into like the meditations, they're all free on Insight Timer. I have, I think 40 or so. I have quite a few courses, meditations, but things that can help you. And there are plenty of teachers there too. So if I'm not your cup of tea, that's cool. But I do have quite a few up there that can help you tune in and into your energy and your chakras. And we didn't even get into that, but there's a lot there too.
That's amazing. I love the idea of, having a community where you all sort of share with each other about your intuitive experiences. And I feel like if everyone's sort of sharing with each other, you tend to listen more into what your intuition is, what guidance you're getting, and you're more likely to actually follow it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's the point. Yeah. We raise each other up by listening and holding space. Oh yeah. It's beautiful community. And it's kind of, I say it's like that sacred, safe space where, that word woo woo, I don't love it, but I always say, bring your woo, bring it all like in there. And we really look at it and learn how to tap in and share. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So we will put the link for your website, and definitely, I think everyone should take the assessment of what intuitive.
Oh, yes. That's pretty incredible.
Thank you. It's fun. I'm glad you resonated with it. That's awesome.
Well, thank you so much, Julie. This has been amazing. It is so great to have you here. And I'm sure that everyone's going to learn so much from this chat. Thank you.
Thank you both so much. This was such an honor. And I hope this raised the intuition quotient, the IQ, the other IQ.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.